Alright, hey everybody. Welcome back to another vegan dinner stream. We're going to be making vegan chili and chocolate chip cookies for dinner tonight. So let's get started. I'm a big fan of chili. So is my wife. It's easy enough to make because it's just a soup, basically. It's easy to put a bunch of vegetables in it, make it nice and healthy, lots of flavor. So we do chili pretty often. I'm going to get my chili recipe, which I usually use, which is this one here. Quick and hearty chili. This was Whole Foods had a chili cook-off where you could bring recipes for chili, and then they had like a tasting contest. And this is that won, and we had tasted it in the store, and it was really good. So we took the little recipe card home, and I've been making variants of whatever I have on hand that is approximately equal to this chili for a couple of years now. So let's get our ingredients. We're going to do some veggie prep first. So let's get the veggies. Got our knife, got our cutting board. So we're going to do some onion. Gotta have a bunch of onion in your chili, in my opinion. We're going to do some peppers. So we'll do this, maybe one, maybe even two. Let's see. We'll do some bell peppers. Let's do the yellow one. It's looking a little older, so you'll not notice that it's a little bit softer if you put it into a chili. The red bell pepper I have looks pretty fresh still, so we'll use that later. And then I'll put a couple of jalapenos into it as well. Look at this. Look at all this color that we're going to be putting into our dish. So let's get started with these. I'm going to saute up the vegetables to get them soft and delicious. And then for cooking the rest of the chili, we're going to be doing it in an Instapot. We're going to pressure cook it so it goes fast and we can not have to wait too long for dinner. So let's do the onion first. I'm just going to do half of it. I've already washed all my produce because we've been washing everything when it comes into the house due to the apocalypse. So this is a white onion. I did this produce shopping on Amazon Fresh, and they didn't have any sweet onion available. I would have normally bought a sweet onion because they're sweeter. They didn't have any in stock, so I got a white onion, which is going to be less sweet. I think if you're at the store, the typical options are sweet onion, white onion, and yellow onion. I think white onions are probably the least sweet of the bunch. Yellow onions being the second most sweet, and then sweet onions being pretty sweet. It's okay though. In a chili, you don't necessarily need a lot of sweetness. And then additionally, I'm going to caramelize these in when I saute them, so that's going to bring out a lot of sweetness. So there's actual sugar. There actually are sugars in onions. And when you heat them up, you're actually going to melt that sugar and I'm actually going to caramelize those where that brown color is going to come from. That's actually going to be melted cooked sugar or caramel. So you actually do bring out a lot of sweetness by sauteing your onions ahead of time. I'm going to do this technique where I, again, sort of slice these fingers down the length of it, leaving a little bit still attached at the end so I can still handle it, and then flipping it 90 degrees and going the other direction just to make a really quick dice, basically. I sharpened my knife the other night. This is the first time cutting vegetables with this sharpened knife. Since I sharpened it. It does feel sharper, so I think I did an okay enough job. That's why it's called caramelization. This fact sticks in my head because I used to, for 1 year in high school, my freshman year, I did speech and debate. No surprises there, I bet. But the nerdiest extracurricular that you could have, I think. Speech kids. I don't know, yeah, probably nerdier than band kids. No offense to either group. Everybody do what you want to do. But anyways, speech and debate is a fascinating extracurricular in which there's a bunch of different categories of speech or debate that you can compete in. And I always competed in, I forget what it was called, Cross-Ex, I think? Cross-examination. And you would debate like pre-chosen issues, and you would bring evidence with you, and you would speak really fast to get a bunch of evidence to the floor. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. There was another one called, I think, Lincoln Douglas. I'm going to get these cooking while I blather on. There's this other one, I think it was called Lincoln Douglas, if I'm remembering right. Or it was a different one, where it was a lot more freeform and there was like more random topics. And people would pull out their dictionaries all the time in this other kind of debate. And they would debate like, oh, well, that word doesn't mean that, and blah, blah, blah. And I remember one of the ones I was watching when I wasn't competing was somebody was saying like, somebody had used the word lionize, and they were like, well, lionize doesn't mean like, it's not like, what was it? I don't know, they were saying something like, lionize doesn't mean you get lion, like a lion gets you. Kind of like when you caramelize something, doesn't mean you're making it into caramel. And then the other guy pulls out his dictionary and he's like, well, caramelize actually does mean you're making it into a caramel. And so that's why that's like the first time I really thought about how when you caramelize onions, you are actually making caramel. Long story short, that's what caramelization is. So I've just cut the jalapeno into quarters so that I can easily cut out the seeds, basically. I did lose a little bit more jalapeno than I wanted to on that slice, but this is just how I cut the seeds out of jalapenos so you don't have the seeds spraying everywhere and you can kind of keep them contained so you don't get your whole cutting board covered in spicy seeds. I only did speech and debate for 1 year because it was a big time commitment and I didn't think that was going to get me into college compared to like science fair, science Olympiad, which were the other things I did in high school after that or during. But speech and debate is fun. Or a lot of card games because you need to keep yourself entertained a lot at the competitions, which are very regular. I learned euchre from some Midwestern folks. Anyways, so we're going to keep cutting up these jalapenos. I'm going to do 2. The last time I made chili, I only put 1 jalapeno in. But this time around, I don't have a poblano pepper, which I would like to add because it adds a little bit more smoky depth of flavor to your chili profile. But I don't have any poblano this time, so I'm doing 2 jalapenos. And I didn't think the jalapenos were that spicy last time, anyways. And I'll substitute my poblano with some paprika. Paprika is from chipotle peppers, I think? It's a pepper. I think it's chipotle. Anybody can fact check me on that. I think it's chipotle. Or is chipotle a pepper? Is chipotle a pepper? I don't remember. Jalapenos are either chipotle peppers or chipotle peppers don't exist and they are poblanos. Any case, paprika is from another pepper. And so I'll add that to my dish. So I have a bell pepper, a jalapeno pepper, and then whatever paprika is made out of in it as well. I don't know. That's just, I think, adds some more flavor, depth, a little more variation. So I'm just going to cut these into thin strips. If you're cutting up a bell pepper, your knife isn't super sharp. Chipotle is smoked jalapenos. Okay, so paprika must be poblanos then. Can you fact check that, Dad? So if your knife isn't super sharp, you can have a hard time going through the skin of your pepper when you're cutting it, and so you can go like ka-kunk, ka-kunk, and it won't give you that nice slicing action. However, just flip your pepper over so the skin is facing down on the cutting board, and it'll go through a lot cleaner and a lot smoother. Just a little tip for cutting up your bell peppers if you happen to have a dull knife. Just flip them over so the skin is facing down. Go toss my onions around. Turn that down a bit. Paprika is a powder made from grinding various pods of capsaicin and peppers. Interesting. Okay, so it's broader than I thought it was. Very interesting. We learn something new every day. So then I guess if I add chipotle powder to my recipe, I'm just adding more jalapeno, basically. But that's fine. I don't think I'm going to add any chili powder. I think I'm just going to do paprika. Alright, so I got my loads of jalapenos here. Now I'm just going to go the opposite direction and cut them into tiny little pieces. So I don't want my jalapenos to be too big. I don't want you to get a giant bite of jalapeno. I want them sort of well dispersed in the dish. Down to the end. Okay. I'm going to go toss these into my saute pan. And I will do the bell pepper. So I'm going to do my trick with the bell pepper where I cut, like, not all the way through at the top so that you can pull the seeds out in one go. Smells fine. If you're ever worried about your produce going bad, give it a smell. It's not a perfect system, but your body has evolved over millions of years to be able to smell toxins. So if you ever want a quick check, just give it a little smell. See how it sounds. But this is fine. You can also taste it, but we're also going to cook it. The main point is, it's fine. I'm going to cook these into bigger chunks. Cool. I'm going to cook these in a little bit bigger chunks so that it adds some texture to the chili, because I think chili should have a number of different textures and sizes of things going on in it to make it more interesting mouthfeel. So these are going to be more diced than minced. Okay, and those of them. Now we'll do this one. Okay. Get these into our saute pan. Okay. And then we're going to get our spices into the saute pan. Okay, so we're going to do... What spices are we going to do? We're going to use some cumin, oregano, cocoa powder, and paprika. Those are going to be the main ones. Cumin. I want to say that I'm out of oregano. Nope, I'm not. Okay, cumin, oregano, paprika, that. Yeah, okay. So we're going to do... The spices we'll do. I'm going to put some onion powder in, which is a tip from my dad, that even if you're cooking with onions, just put a little onion powder in. It'll just add a little bit more onion flavor. How did you learn the bell pepper lid trick? I just invented it. I'm pretty sure. I mean, if you didn't do it at home, then I must have just picked it up on my own somewhere. Okay, so we're going to do like a teaspoon or so of cumin, a couple teaspoons of oregano, and then like a teaspoon of paprika, I think. I'm going to actually measure these because I'm going to trust the recipe a little bit here. I would not normally freestyle this a little bit more, but we're working with a lot of powerful flavors and I don't want to put too much in. So we're going to do cumin. I like to smell the spices every time I use them so that I can build up a better memory of what the spices smell like, so that I have more intuition about what changes the flavor in my dishes the way that they do, so that I can become a better cook. So I'm going to do like a teaspoon and a half of cumin. And we're going to do a couple of teaspoons of oregano. Oregano doesn't have a lot of flavor, so I think it's really easy to overshadow your oregano with other spices if you don't put enough in, personally. And then the paprika. This only calls for half a teaspoon, but I'm going to put in a full teaspoon because we didn't get that poblano in there. That'll be fine. Paprika isn't very spicy at all, so you're not going to overwhelm. And I'm just going to put some onion powder in here as well. Like a nice liberal teaspoon or two, honestly. And then it calls for some salt. So we'll do like a teaspoon or so of salt. There we go. Toss these in. A little bit more oil in here. Let this keep simmering. One of the things to think about when you're cooking is what your different ingredients are soluble in. So you know how like oil and water aren't soluble? Well, flavors can also be more or less soluble in different things. So some flavors are more soluble in oil than water. And so one of the nice things about putting your spices in with your sauté is your sauté is nice and oily. And if the little bits of leaves and herbs and things that have been ground up to make your spices, the flavors are locked into those particles. And some of those flavors are going to be more soluble in oil than water. So if you put it into your oily sauté, the oil and the heat from the sauté can extract those flavors from your spices and then infuse them into whatever other ingredients you are sautéing up. I don't know like what the breakdown is. I don't know if most flavors are more soluble in oil than water, or just some of them. But in any case, this is a nice way to go, because after this we're going to put it into a big pot full of watery stuff. And if there's anything that comes out with water, I'm sure that'll do the job. Anyways, just a thought, if you're cooking stuff up, your cooking style can amplify your spices depending on what you're cooking with. This also calls for some dark cocoa powder, and I keep meaning to buy cocoa powder, and I'm pretty sure for like the 100th time I've forgotten to buy cocoa powder. However, and don't judge me, but that's okay, you can judge me. I do want to add some chocolate flavoring to this. Okay, here are my options for adding chocolate flavoring. Okay, I have baking chocolate, and I have hot cocoa. I'm going to add some sugar to this chili anyways, so it's not crazy to consider putting in a spoonful of cocoa, which seems very American to do. Or I could cut up some of this baking chocolate. Dad says cocoa. Yeah, I agree. Baking chocolate's too much work. I'm going to put in the cocoa, because I'm going to be putting in some sugar into this anyways to counteract the spice. So we're just doing the cocoa. Oh, one vote in that direction was all I needed. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this into here. And that's going to add some chocolate flavor. So chocolate's a Mexican flavoring. Chocolate comes from Mexico originally, and was brought to the rest of the Americas by all the Spanish and English and everybody that conquered everywhere. And traditionally it's not consumed sweetened, so there are a lot of Mexican dishes that contain chocolate as a flavor, but not in a sweet context. And so it makes a lot of sense to put some into your chili, which is a very, southwestern Mexican fusion style of a dish. Okay, because all my spices, all my veggies, they're all sauteing up very nicely. I'm just going to put my pan on low now, after shake it up a bit. Okay, so put that on low. Now let's prep the rest of our ingredients. So this is the container that goes into my Instapot, which is great for pressure cooking at home for people who don't want to use a pressure cooker, which is totally understandable. They're scary devices, and having a little electronic thing that handles it all for you is very nice. So I recommend Instapots because otherwise you're probably not pressure cooking in your kitchen. And they make chilies go by faster. So the reason that pressure pots work, that pressure cooking works, is because if you're boiling something, the maximum temperature that you can reach is 100 degrees C or 212 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the boiling temperature of water. Above that, the water turns into steam and you can't really cook with it. The next option is you can steam things. So you might see a recipe that the Instapots, no, they don't explode. They've got pressure relief valves just like pressure cookers. I don't think they're dangerous. They've sold millions and millions and millions and millions of these. They'd have lawsuits if they blew up, I think. So the next option, if you want to cook faster, is with steam. So steam is not water vapor. That is like, when you see steam coming out of your pan, you're not seeing steam. You're seeing steam that has recondensed into water droplets, and those water droplets are floating in the air. True steam is invisible because it's a gas. It's gaseous water. If you steam something, like if you do steam buns in like a steamer, a lot of the air in your pot is replaced with gaseous water, and gaseous water can get very hot. There's no real, there is an upper limit, but not one you're going to reach in your kitchen. So the next option is to cook with steam. That gets you things faster, so steaming is a nice option. And then the next option is to say, well, my steam's not hot enough. Let's put it in a... let's constrain it in a pressure vessel. And if you learn about thermodynamics and fluids and stuff like that in high school, you probably learned an equation, PV equals nRT, which is basically saying that pressure times your volume is proportional to your temperature. So if you increase your pressure, keep your volume the same, your temperature must go up. So if you put things in a constrained volume like a pressure cooker and keep dumping heat into it, it's just going to get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter. So a pressure cooker will cook things even faster, which is great. There's an upper limit there because I put pressure regulators on them so they don't blow up. But anyways, so we're going to use a pressure cooker for dinner. Normally I would slow cook this recipe, but ever since I got a pressure cooker, I've stopped slow cooking it and just pressure cooked it, and it comes out almost as good, but it's way, way, way faster. Okay, so let's put in the rest of the ingredients here. We're going to get some beans and some tomatoes and some other things. So, we're going to do black beans. We're going to do, I'll bring them all over. We're going to do lots of fun ingredients. Lots of fun ingredients. Okay, so we're going to do the two beans that my wife and I like to put in our chili are garbanzo beans and black beans. And this recipe doesn't call for lime juice. And I love putting lime juice or lemon juice into my chili to make it a little bit brighter. So I'm going to put that on my counter so I don't forget to put some in. So the black beans add like a lot of heartiness and like a richer, deeper flavor. And the garbanzo beans add like a lighter, crunchier note. Not really crunchy, but like they're firmer than black beans in my opinion. So I really like having the two beans in there. I feel like they're a nice contrast. They add tons of protein. They're very healthy, obviously. So let's get those beans into our pot. All right. So we'll grab our strainer. Open up the black beans. This is a fancy-dancy can opener that my parents got me when I moved off to college. The benefits of it are it opens your can without creating a nasty sharp edge so you don't cut yourself and bleed to death in your dorm room alone 3,000 miles away. Very handy. So if you're worried about your kids dying in their dorm rooms in college. OXO. Let's get both of these open. It works great though. I can't complain. It does open the cans very cleanly, and I'm really glad I have it. So thanks, Mom and Dad. And I've got this handy dandy thing to pull it open. All right, so let's rinse these beans off. Let's rinse these off. Right into the pan, that's one. Let's grab our second one. Rinse your cans out so that they're not smelling up your recycling bin before you take your recycling out. Days, weeks later. Alright, garbanzo beans, black beans, done. Then we're going to do crushed tomato, because tomato is the main saucy flavor in your chili. So we're doing these crushed tomatoes. What kind did I get? Oh yeah, this is what I like to try to get. I can't always find them. But these are fire roasted crushed tomatoes, which adds some great depth of complex smoky flavor without having to actually roast your own produce, which is very nice. Yeah, it smells nice. So if you're buying your tomatoes and it's going into a savory dish, buy the fire roasted ones at the store. They don't cost more than a few cents more, and you're good to go. Free flavor. I'm just checking the ingredients. Yeah, so Murray Glen, I feel like we use this brand a lot growing up. They're organic. They don't put additional sugar into their dishes. I'm sure that it's a little bit higher quality tomatoes. So I like this brand. But you really can't go too wrong, honestly, with crushed tomatoes. So whatever you buy, I'm sure it's going to be fine. But anyways, these are going in. One can of that. And rinse this out. Alrighty. And then we're going to put in some tomato paste. We're adding tomato paste. A lot of recipes call for it. I assume that the reason that a lot of chilies call for both the crushed tomatoes and the tomato paste is your crushed tomatoes are just your tomato paste is going to add a lot of sweetness to your dish. There's a lot of sugar in tomato paste. Let's actually look at the ingredients or the nutritional facts. Yeah. So this can of tomato paste, which is a little tiny guy, has 5 servings, and each serving has 4 grams of sugar. So there's 20 grams of sugar in this little can, and there are 20 grams of sugar and 36 grams of sugar between the two. So this is super concentrated. There's a lot more sweetness in here. And America loves its sweetness. So I assume this is to add more tomato flavor, but also add a lot of sweetness to the dish, and also help counteract the spiciness. Who doesn't like a little sugar? So in goes the tomato paste. The other thing that I think the tomato paste does is, because a lot of the water has been removed, you get a lot of tomato flavor, but it doesn't water down your chili. And that's one of the things I don't like, is a chili that's too watery. I assume that's pretty universal. And you don't want your chili too watery, so if you want to get a lot of flavor in without adding a bunch more water, this would be the way to go. I'm just going to stir this up a bit in here. Not that I really need to. Once it's cooking, it's going to really diffuse itself around. Okay. What is left? We got our spices. We got our... Alright, so this calls for garlic. I'm going to use... If I can find it... And... Where did it go? Can't have used it all. The heck? Ah, there it is. Okay. I'm just going to use this generic brand minced garlic in a jar. Garlic has antiseptic properties. We're which means that it has a really long shelf life, especially if you keep it refrigerated, even if it's pre-minced. So this is going to be almost as good as fresh garlic and 100 times easier. So in some of that goes as well. Okay, then a little bit more protein and a little bit more texture. You don't have to put this in. Most of the time we don't have this on stock, but I like to add it when we do have it. This is TVP. It's textured vegetable protein. It's in these little bits of freeze-dried vegetable protein. In this case, it's soy protein. So soy protein is really neutral flavored. They make it into these little granules, and when it rehydrates with all these flavors, it's going to have like a ground beef level like texture to your chili, and you're really not going to notice, like in a chili, you don't really notice the meat so much by its flavor. It's going to be more the texture. So this is going to make your chili more chili-like. You know, if you're looking for if you're used to be not vegan, you're looking to make your chilies more meaty. And it's really just going to suck up flavor from the chili and add some protein. So really fun. Well, I think it's fun, but a great add to your chili if you can add a little bit of TVP. This stuff like swells and absorbs a bit, so you don't want to go nuts. I'm going to put in half a cup. Half a cup. Let's see. Okay. So that is just going to add a bunch of protein. So half a cup of this stuff is going to contain 26 grams of protein, so not half bad. And then I got to keep this from going bad, so I'm just going to put it into some leftover takeout container here. Ooh, is it going to fit? Oh no, it's not going to fit. All right. You don't want your, I mean, it's going to take a while to go through your TVP, so you might as well find a disposable, like a nice container that you can keep it in for a while. In my unfortunate case, it's going to have to go into 2 containers. That's okay. Okay. So these are just going to go into the cupboard to never be seen again until I make chili again, basically. Okay. So in goes our veggies. It's a quick shot of our veggies. Don't these look good? They've just been sitting on the stove, picking up heat, infusing flavors. These are really going to make the dish. The Instant Pot does have like a setting where you can like pre-saute in the Instant Pot in the pan. But I haven't used it before, and I don't like learning new things when I don't have to, so I'm more comfortable just sauteing on the stove. But you could do this with just the Instant Pot, which would probably be nice if you didn't want to get the dish dirty, or you didn't have a lot of, like maybe you're in a dorm and you don't have a lot of counter space, or an oven, or a stove even, you just have an Instant Pot. I would totally say try that out. Alright, so there's our chili. What does this call for? Put in. Okay, this calls for a little bit of soy sauce, just to add some deeper flavor, which I like. That's a great idea. Add a little soy sauce to your chili. It's going to add some delicious salt. It's going to add another flavor profile. Don't you just want more flavor profiles? Do you need to add water to reconstitute the TVP? That's a great point. Most chili recipes are going to call to add on some additional water on top of the stuff that you already did. So, for example, I think this recipe calls for some vegetable stock to put in on top of it. I'm not going to do that. So one of the things that you want to be aware is this is like a recipe designed for cooking on the stove or in like a slow cooker. You're going to lose a lot of water when you cook on a stove because there's steam going to be coming out of it. When you put it in a pressure cooker, it's like a sealed system more or less. There is some venting that goes on, but you're not going to be losing a lot of water to steam the way you normally are. So the first time I made chili in a pressure cooker, it came out way too watery because I wasn't expecting that. So since then, I've kept my water to the minimum So there's plenty of moisture in here, just in the tomato paste and crushed tomatoes, because I don't want my chili to come out too watery. And you can always add a little bit more water in the end. It's going to be fine. So this is the chili. I guess if you want to see the consistency that it's at, this is what it looks like. So now we're going to pressure cook it. Let me get the pressure cooker. This is what the Instapot looks like. I'll put it here real quick. You just put the pan in here. Sits in there very nice. Your big space grade thing goes on there. I swear, if you're making like, if I was like making a set for like a sci-fi movie or something, I needed a quick like airlock thing or like a some sort of like hatch that was airtight to like outer space or something. Look, I mean, look at this action. These are like $50. What a cheap, great sounding pressure locking prop that you can make out of this. I think that'd be really fun. Adam Savage, if you're watching this, I've been watching your videos lately. Make a prop out of a pressure cooker. I think that would be great. Okay, that's a pressure cooker. I'm just gonna put it on my other table that you don't normally see because it's covered in garbage. Over here, plug it in and get this pressure cooking out of the way of the rest of the kitchen. Cord's not very long. There we go. How long to pressure cook this is a good question. If you're doing rice, like I think a pressure cooker is typically like at least twice as fast as normal cooking. Will it keep zombies out? Probably. This calls you to cook it on the stove for like half an hour or something, which really isn't very long for a chili if you really want to infuse those flavors. So I think I'm going to pressure cook this for, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe? I feel like I Google it every time and I forget what I end up doing, so let me Google it. Pressure cook chili time. Let's just cook for 8 minutes. Cook for 10 minutes. I mean, that will work. But I want it to be a little bit more. I'm going to go for 15 minutes. We're going to do 15 minutes, and I think that'll be totally acceptable and very quick. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on somehow. There we go. It's on. Pressure cook. Oh, it's set to 15 minutes. That's what I had it set to last time when I made chili, which is the last thing I made in this pressure cooker. I'm going to put away my recipe. Put my dirty ingredients, or my dirty utensils, into the stove. I'm going to just rinse off my teaspoon because I don't have a lot of those that are clean, and I'm going to use it in a second for my next recipe. If anybody joined after I started, we're doing chocolate chip cookies as well tonight because cabin fever, I guess. Encase my onion. Put that into the fridge. Oh, by the way, I don't know if people saw me make pizza the other night, like last night or 2 nights ago. Oh my god, it turned out really good. Not to toot my own horn, but like, it was so good. I was so happy with it. That cheese I added on at the last second, that falling apart shredded Parmesan, I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out. It turned out it's a great cheese for vegan pizzas. It melted really nice. The flavor was really good. It was great. And then putting the leftover samosa batter on it was also really good. I was thoroughly happy with the pizza. Had the leftovers of that pizza for lunch today. Flip my cutting board back over. Blah, blah, blah. Rinse my knife off. Put my can opener away. And we're on to our next recipe with chocolate chips. Look at that. So we're going to do chocolate chip cookies, a classic and really easy to make vegan. So Let us get a chocolate chip cookie recipe out from my parents' vegan family cookbook. Does goat cheese melt and flatten at all? No, it doesn't really. It doesn't. It does melt. It does get a lot softer, but it holds its form. So if you like squish it after it comes out of the oven, it's like totally melted, but it doesn't flow. Yeah, it actually shrinks. I think it dehydrates a little bit, and you end up with like a little bit of a smaller piece, but it's like totally melty when it comes out. That was for the pizza, the vegetarian half of the pizza the other night. All right, so let's find the chocolate chip cookie recipe. Here it is. We're just going to follow this and decide if we're making a full batch or a half batch. These are the questions we need to ask ourselves when we're making cookies. These are the questions. Well, let's preheat the oven while we think about it. So that's going to be preheated to 350. Boom. I'm a nut for efficiency in the kitchen, so I will actually, usually if I'm walking into the kitchen to make dinner and I know I need to use the oven, I'll just walk by the oven, I'll preheat it, I'll push the bake button, hit go, and it's going to take it to 350, and then I'll actually check my recipe, and if it says 375, I'll go over there and adjust it, just to save that like 1 or 2 minutes of preheat time. How did the chocolate chips get opened already? Well, I had to taste test them to make sure that they were going to be good. I haven't had this brand before, obviously. Are we going to make a double batch? Or not a double batch. We're going to make a normal batch, which is suitable for a family of 4. I think I'm going to have to make a regular batch. Yeah, there's no point in making a half batch. It's only 1.5 cups of flour, honestly. Yeah, we're just going to make a full batch. I think I'm going to make this in the stand mixer as well. Cookies are good to make in a stand mixer because the dough is very stiff, and you want to mix your sugar and fat together before you get the rest of it going. So I might as well just go for the stand mixer right off the bat, even though it's some effort to set up and clean, etc. So here's my beloved stand mixer that I got for free after I fixed it up, and let's follow this recipe. Okay, so then flour, egg replacer, baking soda, and salt. So we're going to do 1.5 cups of flour. Oh, see guys, I'm running out of flour. I'm going to have to go to the store. Buy some flour because I can't get it online apparently. Oh god, don't even... I'm stupid. I want to whip my fat and sugar together before I put the flour in, so don't be like me. Think about it. Alright, so we're going to do butter and we're going to do sugar. So this calls for half a cup of butter, or margarine obviously. I'm going to do 2 of these quarter cuppers so I can keep my precious only clean half cup clean so that I can dip it into the flour later. I just did dishes. I'm very low on dishes right now. So this is the margarine that we use for everything. It's a great consistency. I would recommend this for baking and for toast and for everything. This is my favorite brand, Earth Balance. I've tried a few others lately. Like I Can't Believe It's Not Butter's vegan one that they came out with recently, and I tried the Country Crock vegan one that came out in the last year or so, and this one's my favorite still. I don't think any of the big brands have matched Earth Balance yet. I say any of the big brands, but I bet Earth Balance is owned by a big brand and they just don't advertise it that way. It's probably purchased at some point. Let's find out. Distributed by Boulder Brands USA. Yeah, Boulder Brands is a pretty big company, I think, so I'm sure they bought Earth Balance at some point or something like that. Anywho's, in goes the margarine. That's a quarter cup, and then we'll get another quarter cup, and that'll be half a cup, guys, because that's all you really need to know math-wise when you're cooking. Let's see. Let's make sure I don't get any like air pockets in here, so I'm not shortchanging myself on the butter, because that would be terrible, right? That seems good, though. And in it goes. Okay. That's our butter. Now this calls for half a cup of brown sugar because obviously you want as decadent of a chocolate chip cookie as you can get. So let's go in for the brown sugar. You could use regular sugar, obviously, but this is just going to add more richness of flavor. Brown sugar these days, it's kind of funny. When I say, what's the difference between brown sugar and white sugar? Well, naively, white sugar has this brown stuff removed from it, and the brown stuff is molasses. That's where molasses comes from. It's the quote-unquote waste product for making white sugar, and it's delicious and has tons of flavor, even if some people don't like it. However, I believe commercially available brown sugar these days, at least from like these big companies like Domino, will make white sugar and then they'll re-add in the molasses, basically. Let's look at the ingredients here. I bet it says, oh, it just says ingredients, brown sugar. A lot of times they'll make the white sugar and then they'll scientifically re-add the brown sugar to make sure they get a really consistent brand. And, otherwise you have to set up two processing plants, one that makes white sugar and strips out the molasses, and one that makes brown sugar and somehow leaves the molasses in. Or you can just use one factory that makes white sugar, and then sometimes you add a little bit of the molasses back in. So, manufacturing there. I think I learned that from my dad probably at some point. Or my mom. I don't have a good tie to keep my brown sugar closed, so now I'm just standing here wondering how I'm going to keep my brown sugar closed. And I think the answer is I'm going to go get some tape from the living room. So I'll be right back. Ta-da! Okay. If your brown sugar gets all hard on you, a pro tip is to put half a piece of bread or a piece of bread in the bag with it. And the bread contains a bunch of moisture. And that moisture will come out of the bread amazingly and go into your brown sugar. And it'll refluff up your brown sugar. It's amazing how well it works. It's incredible. I've done it once, and it turned a solid brick of brown sugar into the perfect fluffy new brown sugar again. Conagra owns Principal Foods. Principal Foods owns Boulder Brand. Boulder owns... Yeah, okay, so thanks for looking that up. So Earth Balance is literally owned by, I assume, one of the absolute largest food conglomerates, Conagra. So if you think you're buying your hippy-dippy stuff, you're really still paying for Conagra in the end, because that's how marketing and products work. But that's fine. You just live with it. Okay. All this yapping, and we've only gotten to adding the sugar and the margarine. So let's cream that together, eh? I'm going to use this attachment, which is the correct attachment for making a dough like this. It's your basic stirring attachment. It's not whipping, it's not a dough. Well, it's not like a bread dough where you use a bread hook. There we go. Okay, now we can add our other ingredients. You may wonder, why mix the butter and the sugar together in the beginning? Well, I don't know how much it matters for chocolate chip cookies. Probably somewhat, but more for cakes maybe. If you mix your fat and your sugar together, you're going to encase your... I don't know the exact science, but this is pretty much what I've pieced together. You're going to be... You want to evenly incorporate your fat and your sugar particles throughout your bake, because those are going to be little nucleation points where steam is formed and little pockets and crumb are formed within your recipe. So if you want them evenly dispersed, you mix them together so that you can sort of like coat all your sugar particles in fat, and your fat can be coated around little sugar particles. They'll all get dispersed nicely together. And then that just like affects the final crumb texture of your whatever the heck you're making. That's as far as I've heard or know or into it. So do your cream and your sugar together. I feel like a million things though you say in the kitchen. Nobody's ever tried the control lately because everybody just learned from somebody who knew exactly what they were talking about. Not to say that things are wrong, but I forgot the lemon juice. I put the lemon juice out literally to remember to put it in the chili, and I forgot. So I'm just going to put it next to the chili because you can always add it in at the end. I totally knew I was going to forget that. Okay. That's the flour in. Now goes the leavening agent. So this recipe is going to call for egg replacer and baking soda. I've been out of egg replacer for a while, so I've just been using baking powder, and it's working totally fine. Egg replacer is like a special brand of egg replacing powder to replace eggs in recipes that we use a lot in a lot of recipes. But lately I haven't had it, and it's been fine. So, technically I should mix the dry ingredients together so they're nicely well dispersed before I mix into the wet, but that's too many. I'm not going to get another bowl dirty just for that. It's going to be fine. So I'm just going to do a 1-to-1 replacement of the baking soda egg replacer, and then still go in with a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Okay. Then we're going to go in for the salt. Make sure your desserts have enough salt in them. They need sugar, but they also need salt. It's going to bring out your sugar flavor, which is very important. That's why salted caramel tastes so good. Okay. This also calls for a half a cup of sugar on top of the half a cup of brown sugar. I didn't see that. So we're going to put that in now as well. I'm going to go a little light on that because I feel like that's more sugar than we need. I'm just going a little light. It's going to affect the texture a little bit, but I'm fine with it. We don't need the sweetest chocolate chip cookies in the world. There's a ton of salt and baking powder. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. No kidding. Okay, well that's cool. That makes sense, I guess. It's got that sort of bitter flavor to it. I need to add my vanilla and 2 tablespoons of water. Okay. I don't need to measure that. 2 tablespoons is half of a quarter cup. I've already got a dirty quarter of a cup, so I'm just going to fill it up halfway. And the vanilla. So normally, I think you've probably heard me say like I don't put vanilla into everything because I feel like it takes a lot of vanilla to get some flavor out of it, and it's expensive. But I feel like chocolate chip cookies are one of the places where it's worth it because it's just sugar flour plus chocolate chips. So you might as well add some flavor to the sugar flour part. All right, so we're gonna mix these up before we add the chocolate chips. And I'm going to get a spatula to smash down the sides. This is looking a little dry, honestly. But maybe it's just because the sides are not being picked up. That's the only downside of this stand mixer. Is it's large, so a recipe that would normally fill up your bowl large enough to get mixed totally well might not get incorporated well enough. I'm just gonna add a little bit more moisture to this because I think for whatever reason it's on a little bit of a drier side. Maybe I overmeasured my flour or something. Much better. Yeah, it's coming together better now. Oops. That's nice. Mm-hmm. Oh, that tastes good. Okay. In with the chocolate chips. Calls for 6 ounces. This container is 9 ounces. So most of this container. Oops. Bring that up. We're going to go real slow so we don't crush the chocolate chips too much. But this will be totally, this is a great way to get them incorporated in. There we go. Alright. Ooh, so many moving parts. There we go. Just gonna put this away. Okay. We're gonna cook these on a sheet tray, or a cookie tray, as you might call it, with some parchment paper. Parchment paper is great. It's a way better non-stick surface than really anything. Your cookies are never going to stick to parchment paper, so don't bother with buying a non-stick pan. Just put parchment paper down. It's super easy. It's also going to help your cookies from burning because there's going to be a little bit of an air gap between the paper and the pan. There's going to be a little bit insulating on the bottom of the cookies, which is a good thing to have. Excuse me. I was going to say something. Oh yeah, chocolate chips. Can't get good vegan chocolate chips anymore. It's unfortunate. The Ghirardelli brand of chocolate chips used to be vegan. And lately, they don't have a vegan one anymore, which is crazy. They used to be pretty good. And so you have to buy random hippie off-brands like Enjoy Life and stuff, and they're just not as good. I don't know if See's still makes vegan chocolate chips, but you can't buy those in stores. But those were the best. So I don't know. Chocolate chips that are vegan right now aren't the best. Oh well. Get Guittard. I don't think Guittard is vegan necessarily either anymore. I think both of those brands, started putting milk in. I'm not sure. You should double check when you're in the store. Some. Yeah, I don't know. I've looked at a lot of them lately, and I've been disappointed the last couple times I've looked. Maybe they're just not in stock. How big of a cookie do we want to make here? This is rounded teaspoonfuls. That's too small. Who made this recipe? I'm going to do half of these scoops. It says do not flatten. The idea with cookies that have a lot of fat in them is once you put them into the oven, the fat is going to melt, and then the consistency of your cookie is going to get like a lot less viscous, and then they're going to flatten in the oven, which I think works pretty good if you use the right butter. Earth Balance is sufficiently fatty that it is going to do that nicely. But if you skimp out and buy a vegan margarine that is healthier for you and has less horrible for you fats that are more melty at room temperature-y, I can't guarantee the consistency of your chocolate chip cookies. So if you're cooking chocolate chip cookies, go for as unhealthy of a vegan butter as you can for optimal texture, I guess, and melting in the oveniness. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is a good size. What else was I going to say on chocolate chip cookies? I don't know. Chocolate chip cookies are so simple and delicious, and they're really easy to make vegan. So it's a great recipe if you need to bring to a vegan's, I don't know, party or something or other. These are really easy to make. It's hard to mess up. You don't need to rely on like a super advanced fake vegan egg or really anything. The texture is really easy to get correct. So, vegan chocolate chips. What a great classic. Chocolate chip cookies. And every store is going to have vegan chocolate chips. Basically every store you go to is going to have vegan chocolate chips. So, you don't need to worry about not finding them. You just have to check the ingredients. Okay. So, I've got one extra cookie. which if y'all weren't watching, I would probably consider just eating the dough because it's delicious. But I'm going to make room on this sheet tray for one extra cookie sort of sitting over here in the middle of stuff. Okay, so these cookies are ready to cook. Wash my hands, got all the fat off of my hands. And we got 1 minute left on the chili. Look at that timing, guys. So these are the cookies. They're going to go into the oven. These are going to bake for 15 minutes at 350. Okay, so we'll clean up our cookie dough, which means I obviously need to not let any of this residual cookie dough go to waste. Make sure that this butter sugar mix tastes good. Yep. It tastes good. Okay. That's the pressure cooker finishing up there. This can all go in the sink. I'm just going to let that sit there until I'm done cleaning up because it doesn't really matter if I quote-unquote overcook it a bit. Tip of my chocolate chips. Might have to dip these in peanut butter later and eat the rest of them. Because you can't really make a batch of cookies without a few chips. Put away my cookbook. This can go in the sink. Time to wash that. Let's see, these can all go in the recycling. Chili's a great dinner to make because he makes so few dishes prepping it, which is nice. We're going to have dinner with leftover tortilla chips from the last time we had chili. The brand, I actually really like these, so let me check the brand. Yeah, Late July. It's a pretty good brand of tortilla chip. I feel like they're better than, they're better than whatever that main brand of tortilla chip is that you get. Tostito? I don't remember. Anyways, these are good. So we're going to have those, dip those in our chili. That's where the unhealthiness with the chili comes in, if you're going to dip your tortilla chips in it. Here's our pressure cooker. Ooh, I have just unplugged it. So this is the fun part. You don't have to do this, but you can vent the steam if you want it to be done quicker. So you just turn this valve and... interesting, Alex. This little thing you toggle back and forth, you toggle it in one direction to let the steam out and one to seal it. And I never sealed it. Which means that this wasn't pressure cooking, this was just cooking the whole time. Which is disappointing. Well, I will now check on the chili that has not been pressure cooking, but has been cooking. And see how it tastes, because maybe I need to pressure cook it a bit, since that wasn't really the full time that you would have cooked this. Silly me, not checking the valve. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's see what that flavor is like in there. Oh, I have so few clean utensils. Just steal one from the dishwasher. It's almost done. That's good. It probably would have been a little bit more tender if I pressure cooked it, but since I did it for 15 minutes and there's some preheat up time anyways, I'm okay with it. Would have been nice to have pressure cooked it, I guess is what I'll say. But it is totally cooked, and I'm not going to wait any longer for dinner. So I guess lessons learned next time. And I'm going to add my lemon juice, because I didn't want to forget that. So let me just mix that in. So yeah, that is going to be our dinner. Let me just see if you can see the chili. So yeah, there it is. We're going to have chili for dinner. It's nutritious and delicious. And yeah, the cookies are going to be great too, but I'm not going to hang out on Twitch until those are done baking. So you'll just have to trust me on that. Yeah, good night everybody. Enjoy your own dinners if you haven't eaten yet. Have a good one.